Good morning. It's a little after midnight, so it's officially Friday. I think I've mentioned, I'm pretty sure I have, that I am reading through a fantastic book. And I wanted to read a little part of it for you. It's about shame, and I think that's probably why I'm feeling such a nudge to get this video done tonight before I go to bed, because I know that negative voices can get louder at night. And I just, again, want to always encourage. That's my mission behind sharing every single video that I share. So I'm going to read this to you. Close your eyes and listen. This is from chapter 7 of Discover Your True Self by Chip Ingram. The title of the chapter is The Lie of Shame. Over here we've got the debilitating power of shame. Shame rarely shows up on the surface. It's one of those hidden secrets in our soul, something we carry behind our masks, an unhealed spiritual and emotional wound that seems to scar us for life. Every day you will talk with people, sit in the same room with them, and pass them on the street without any awareness of the shame they're carrying. On the outside, they may seem to have it all together, but deep down they're suffering from the relentless feeling that something is seriously wrong with them, that if people only knew, they would keep their distance. Shame disguises itself as your true self, but it isn't. It feels like it's rooted in who you are, but it is only usually rooted in something you've done or that's been done to you. It may come from a broken relationship, a secret affair, a hidden abortion, an addiction, a promiscuous past, or anything else that makes you feel like a second-class Christian or even a second-class person. Sometimes the shame doesn't come from anything you did, but from what someone else did to you. From a stolen innocence, a violated trust, an abuse of your deepest self. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. If the wound has never healed, it can feel very much in the present. And it will continue to fester. Even if you're walking with God now, shame can well up with an embarrassing memory, a phone call, a song on the radio, or a reconnection with someone you used to know. Whenever it bubbles to the surface, it makes you feel like part of you is unlovable and you're being punished. It masquerades as an unpardonable sin. You can often tell how strong your sense of shame is by how zealously you hide your past from friends and family members. The last thing you want is for people to know what you used to be like. It feels like a part of your identity must remain forever hidden. Shame drives you to cover your true self, to compensate for your past, or withdraw from any risk of exposing it. It's both sad and fascinating to spend time with a group of people who look like everything is going well in their lives, only to discover the turmoil they have been carrying beneath the surface for years. My wife has spent a lot of time with various groups of bright, competent, successful women, and it's always surprising when she tells me about the pain they're dealing with. She never tells me any names or details, but she often says, "Chip, you would not believe the amount of pain in our church." She has told me discreetly and anonymously of people who have spent decades grieving a parent's suicide, who carry the scars of sexual abuse or relatives in prison, and so much more. It's enough to convince me that most people have long wrestled with deep shame in some area of their lives. We began this book with the theological thesis that the most important thing about us is how we see God. And the second most important thing about us is what comes to mind when we think about ourselves, the mirror in our minds. If that's true, and I strongly believe it is, then shame is an enemy that has some of the most distorting effects on our identities. Among all the fears and feelings that warp our perspectives, shame is perhaps the most devastating. like this last sentence here. If that's true, and I strongly believe it is, then shame is an enemy that has some of the most distorting effects on our identities. So it's worth it to look into your past. And if something doesn't come up right away, dig a little bit deeper. But the Bible verse that's coming to mind actually is, now there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And hang in there because I'm going to look it up. So I'm having a hard time finding the verse, and if I look it up on Google, which I usually do, it'll end the video that I paused. So again, it's, I want to say it's in Ephesians, but there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Once you give your life to Christ, you are truly free. You're no longer imprisoned by the sins from your past or your present. That's a gift. That's grace. And it may be hard to wrap your head around it, but God does love you. No matter what you've done, no matter what you will do, it doesn't surprise him. It breaks his heart. It grieves him. But he's not going to turn his back on you. He loves you. Good night.